I'm Phil Metris. I'm the director of the John Carroll University Young Writers Workshop. Thank you so much for coming to support these wonderful writers. And you've supported them obviously not only here tonight, but by financially supporting them. And it's just such a grace that you've seen what we do here as something that's valuable, something that's worthwhile. I'd like to just read a short introductory note and then thank a number of people who've really helped make this possible. We live in an age where people seem to have lost sight of the gifts of creative writing and of the arts in general. Yet some of us still know its value and its transformative power, its ability to make sense of an often confusing world, to speak truths that we rarely share. Parents, in sending your young writers to this camp, you have given them a great gift, the gift of finding their own voice, their own truth, their power, their inner freedom. The origin of the term liberal arts, of which creative writing is a part, comes from ancient Rome. According to one writer, quote, "Slaves were entitled to the study of any subject so long as it was dubbed practical. Slaves could take math, some science, and engineering, but subjects like history, philosophy, and rhetoric, and literature were forbidden. These arts of persuasion were reserved only for the liber, the free. Why? Because the ancient Romans didn't want to arm slaves with the tools of education that would allow them to say, 'We should be free.' What I wish for you, dear writers, is what Edgar Lee Masters writes in his poem Emily Sparks, which is about a teacher. This is from Spoon River Anthology. She says at the end, 'Work for your soul's sake, that all the clay of you, all of the dross of you, may yield to the fire of you, till the fire is nothing but light, nothing but light.'" I have a number of people I'd like to thank, and please do thank them audibly. First, Sarah Johnson Labarbera, our graduate student coordinator. She let me know that she comes from generations of church women, and the spread and the organization that she had was simply awesome. Your Baptist people would be so proud of you. Anna Hosevar, who is our English department administrator and coordinator, who's not here, still deserves thanks. Many of you have probably spoken with her. Dave Lucas, who taught poetry so ably this week and was oft talked about, I hear. Lydia Munnell, who taught fiction and was equally talked about. I should just say that although I didn't teach Dave, I definitely taught Lydia, and they're both alums of John Carroll, and it's a real pleasure and a privilege to be able to bring back writers who've done so well in the world. Dave published his first book of poems in 2011 called Weather, and it garnered the Ohio Book Award for best book of poems written in the state that year. And Lydia's been publishing fiction, also these very cool comics called Dead Horse, which you should look up on your own time. So it's really thrilling to be able to see generations of writers sort of emerge from this place. And I feel so proud of them and what they've brought here. I'd also like to thank our JCU interns, Emma DiPasquale in the back there. Please stand. Emma's a senior in the creative writing track here. And Madeline Sweeney, also senior. And returning for her fourth year, she's now an MFA student at the Neo-MFA program, is Maureen Ginley. Thank you guys so much for everything that you've done with these great writers, and I'm just so happy that it all has worked out and come together. So what will ensue is about an hour, maybe 55-minute reading in which each of these writers are going to share something of what they wrote. Many of the pieces are here in the anthology, a few are not. We invite you either to read along or to just watch the magic unfold. I just want to remind the writers that these microphones are not amplification, so you need to be stentorian the way I am. You guys all ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get this thing started. Please welcome Kashan Perry.
Before I start, I just want to say that this poem was inspired by something tragic that happened to me. An unforgivable crime. I've titled it Murder. We sit down, awaiting the mundane speech of responsibility your parents are not preparing. You find it unnecessary since you've already realized your dreadful mistake. But you don't blame them. No one can. I try to comfort you as I ease your pain, but it's no use. I can't sympathize with you. I've never had such a special bond that you once possessed. This was her job. When you cried, she sang your favorite song. When forgetful, she reminded you of anything. When asleep, she remembered to wake you up in the morning. Both the first and last thing you saw and touched every day. I guess you can refer to her as your sidekick. You can't remember a car ride without her. You can't remember a road trip or vacation without her. We'll share the inseverable connection, the one that seemed impossible to possess. But now, she's gone. You killed her. You had bruised that fragile body on accident before, but this was different. This shut her down for good. Sure, she hurt you when you asked stupid questions like, what's 0 divided by 0? She'd call you an idiot and jest of your severe lack of friends. And sure, she was a bit of a know-it-all, mostly because she had answered every question. But no one's perfect. That's why you loved her. You didn't want her to die. But your rage bested you. It all happened so fast, as if you blinked and she was gone. You commanded her to relay a message to the love of your life, but she heard wrongly. Again. I said scary, not hairy, you shouted. Love, not shove. Your love got the wrong idea, driving her away, pushing you over the edge. I can't blame you for the anger and rage you felt. She was your messenger when you were too shy to talk in person. I can't blame you for the way you manhandled her, hurling her in a fit of blind rage. But oh, how you wept as she soared through your room, such force and velocity. Then, she was gone. That tough body you thought she had instantly shattered, breaking against your sharp drawer corner upon impact, destroying your best friend beyond repair. You're still in disbelief, unable to shake this terrible shock of fear of loneliness. The death of Siri still bothering you like a dagger lodged in your chest. You'll never find another iPhone like her. Now introducing Sydney Hilson.
This poem is entitled Domineering Nature. Who are you to claim all power against nature? Because your opposable thumbs cannot lift the world. Your teeth were not made to tear lions apart or to dominate sharks. Would your cortex save you in the depths of the savannah or beyond the Mariana Trench? If you were here in superior identity to all other creatures of earth, then where, may I ask, are your claws? Where are your gills and cheetah-like speed? But we are still animals, equal to all others. We always will be, nothing more and certainly nothing less. And my next poem is titled, I Let Go. Because my skin doesn't want to clutch my bones so tightly anymore. You can't take me again. You won't. I'm not addicted to you anymore. Because now, you're addicted to me. This is my goodbye. And this time, I mean it, like the rashing waves that shock the ocean shore, bringing shells with grace and force. But you will forever leave me scarred with an eternally quaking body, covered in scarves on the beach and long sleeves. How I wish I could go, just one day, without feeling faint and weak, easily bruising and always fatigued, lost in dizzy clouds of gray. I still don't want you back, to give these troubles a purpose. Take the space between my thighs and cover my bones like they were before I met you. I do not need empty pleasures, like thin wrists or jealous glances, to learn how to love myself. I don't need 70 pounds. I don't even want it. Not all sea turtles live to be 100, but I plan on being one that does. And now I'd like to introduce Jess.
All right, my short story is titled A Moment of Silence. The ground was bloody, and the sky reeked with the ardor for war. Their uniforms were stiff with drying blood from the fortunate. Their faces were sweat-stained and the salt bore into their cuts, making them throb. Bodies were strewn all around. They dared not bow their heads to pray, for the attack was coming. They could only hear the heavy breathing of one another. Some eyes began to tear, some panting began to grow shallow from the ones that were almost gone. They waited for a footstep, a neigh, or a battle cry. They thought of their loved ones often, but never as much as they did now. Thoughts of home never sounded so wonderful, to smell house cooking instead of the stench of corpses, to be in the arms of a loved one instead of touching the fingertips of death. They could hear the switch click, and they could see nighttime. The lust for blood was evident in the wind. It was felt at once by them all. They clutched their sword handles, they held their ground, they adjusted their masks and ignored their sore bodies, their scalding skin. Then they heard the stomping, they heard shouts, they heard the clapping of the horses' feet, coming louder, swifter, steadier, coming in thousands over the mountain. One glance, and they knew that they were going to end up on the ground, like splattered paint a child forgot to clean up. They drew their swords anyway. And then I have a poem titled A Devil's Case. In love, I've been damned. You see, she took it from me. Long before that night, with the knife molded in my hand, when I saw the bed, the shallow breathing, the hands that hurt me, the heavy head, I drew the curtains back. I let the moonlight rest on my scars that I now play with. I parted my lips, leaned over the bed, and kissed a single word. I was on the floor, the knife wedged between her breasts. I breathed in red. Sweat leaked out of my skin. You see, don't blame me. I can't help what she did to me. I've seen the devil's face, and so now I close a devil's case. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Zimmerman.
Hi, I'm just going to read a short excerpt from one of my stories. March 5th. Today was not a fun day at all, and I have not had a not fun day in a very long time. So today was very hard, and my mother is scared because I've had my bedroom door shut and locked for the past 3 hours, and I did not come out even when she made me chicken and noodle soup, which is my very favorite soup ever. Today was a very not fun day, and it was so not fun that even the fact that I got my friends to laugh at my smudged eyeliner does not make me happy, and that is because I cannot stop thinking about my after-school conference when Senora James talked to my parents about my grade in Spanish, which is a serious subject. And Senora James told my parents that I was slacking off, and I tried to explain that I do not slack off. And I cannot do the pages in the 30s, not even with my pink pen, but then one of the legs on the chair, but then one of the legs on my chair was off, and it rocked a little bit, and I kept staring at Senora James's earrings that only had 3 beads on them instead of 4, and the room started to spin in a way that not even shaking my leg helped. So I dug my fingernail into my thumb so hard that it left a mark, and it brought me back for long enough to stumble out of the room and out of the doors. And then we got into the car home, and my father asked if I had taken my medication this morning, and I said yes, I had, even though that was a lie, because I do not like to take my medication since I am afraid of all medicines, even Tylenol. And I am especially afraid of my medicines because they are blue, and then my father swore and told my mother to call Dr. Schrader to talk about switching my medications, and then I said I had actually not taken it because I would rather admit that than have to go to Dr. Schrader and sit in his cold office and take heavier medication because that would be scarier, I think. Thank you. And next up, I would like to introduce Jake.
This piece is a poem, which is odd because I've always been a writer of fiction, and the last time I can remember writing a poem that I liked enough to share with people was never really. But Dave gave us a prompt and told us to write a poem addressing someone, and I found myself addressing somebody that I had never met. So this is a letter to a robin. My mom thinks that this owl in our backyard is her dead uncle. And maybe it is. He's flown into our window twice. He knew so many people and went so many places. And now he's here for her. And that's something, I guess. And I guess it's okay. So maybe when I'm out here and I see wings and eyes and a bright red stomach, it's okay for me to think it's you in the form of a robin, if you'll forgive my petty humor. Because that's the only kind there is, really. I'll pretend that it is, and also pretend that you're here for me, like her uncle is here for her. But oversimplified, so I am free to imagine you with more complexity than you ever showed, the way people do about someone they've never met, if that's all right, I hope. So did you feel a little like this? Sort of, I'm not sure. Did you ever think there was such a thing as a good cry? And when you looked at your children and they smiled because the world was bright and blurry and frightening and it was so wonderful, and you put on a hat or a mustache or a floral dress and danced and twisted your voice and sang Figaro, Figaro, oh Captain, my Captain, and all the rest, were you really just trying to do monkey do and do until you dropped dead behind that mic? Red throat, red voice, nothing left to give, and it meant your job was done and it was the most important thing you ever did? Because if all the world is a stage, we might see a softer world. And if we are all players, we might play until the day is done. And maybe it might be the best thing in the whole world to see someone laugh. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Drea.
Okay, so I'm going to read my first story, Until Next Time. Before he went back for his next tour of duty, she held his face in her hands and said, "I love you and come home soon." He gave his wife and newborn baby a kiss and choked, "I love you both so much." On a dark night, fire came in a downpour while engines roared below the stars. He held his family tightly in his pocket while shielding suffering men from the devil and all his friends. The sound of agony surrounded him, trapping him with no way of escape. The next morning, the wife sat in the family room, rocking her baby to sleep. A man dressed in uniform knocked loudly on the door. Curious, the wife put the now wailing baby in his crib. She slowly opened the door, and in a shaking voice she asked, "Is everything okay?" The next is a poem in reply to Shakespeare's Sonnet 130, and it's called Anti-Sonnet 130. Let me tell you, sir, you're no good yourself. Your breath reeks of vodka hidden on the shelf. If my lips are not the sea, everything but soft, your lips be the desert where kisses rot. If hair should be gold, hair should be winning, your hair is dingy and thinning. My rose perfume you hate, you think it smells. Well, that cologne kills and sends me to hell. When you sing, which is time and time around, I want to gouge my ears just to stop that screeching sound. My legs are too big, my shoulders too wide. You don't look great either, especially from the side. But you still love me, and you stay true. Hate to say it, I slept with your brother too. I'm pleased to introduce Genevieve.
This is my poem, Zhuzh. I do not know how you pronounce my nickname. You use some skewed amalgam of the clean French tongue of your adopted home, mixed with the harsh Inuit of your bitter childhood, and the scattered English you picked up with age. Synthesizing sleazily, you stamped the slick emblem upon my young heart. Back then, the name gleamed with our kinship, and even when I held it up to the light, I could not see that it was transparent. Now, when I hear this cruel word played back to me in harrowing memories, seething through your tight white teeth, I give it back. I stamp the disgraceful zhuzh, the symbol of your selfish faults, upon your pale forehead. This is what you have become to me. Thank you, and now I'm proud to introduce Rachel.
Okay. This is titled, "To the Cybergoth That I Will Never Meet." You're probably the kind of person that believes in what others do not, that rejects what society tells them because you have the good sense not to trust the world around you. Maybe you dress in black and neon, like a wasp to warn others away. Maybe you like to blend in, but one day you swear you'll don that wig, put on those combat boots, and show the world exactly what you think of it. What's so special is that you listen to the world in bursts of agrotech and scratchy recordings from World War II. You watch the Castle Bravo detonation, followed up with Daniel Graves singing "All Beauty Destroyed," and you suddenly feel like you know the world and its past, and then you try to see its future. Whoever you are, I know that you're determined to see the truth, no matter how ugly it can be. You see pollution everywhere you go. There are coal burners in the city. There are the factory farms in the town, feeding into your nation's lifestyle every second of the day. There is the Ford factory to the east, and the highway to the west, and 100 smoking addicts in between. Overseas, the Cold War that your musicians warn against is still alive. People die silently for oil and nukes in places where no common citizen could ever go. It is okay to be upset for a while. Awareness and anger go hand in hand. What you do in the face of the world is speak and sing and dance. You will go through the years sending messages that many will ignore or misinterpret, and despite the many, you will go on for the knowing few. You will speak for the dying souls in the Mayak nuclear complex who suffer, hidden underground and forgotten. You will sing for the Chinese factory workers who were driven to suicide because of Apple's horrendous working conditions. You will dance for the innocents in Fallujah, a city contaminated forever by exploding uranium shells. And you will show the world exactly what you think of it. Next, I would like to introduce Hannah.
All right, this first poem I'm reading is a poem titled "The Storm." Oh, how it kills me how this rain falls down, enough to wet my shoes, but not enough to let me drown. But there don't have to be tears, there doesn't have to be pain, if you put a little music to a whole lot of rain. As electric as lightning and as stunning as thunder, wet feet can carry us to a whole lot of wonder. Music isn't always pretty and poems don't always rhyme, but darling, remember that rainbows always take a little time. And then the second thing I'm going to be reading is a part of a longer fiction piece I wrote titled "The Runaway." We stood there for a while like that, staring at each other, stubborn gazes and aching hearts. It was Chance who broke first, tumbling forward and gathering me in his arms. His chest was tight and his heart throwing a childlike tantrum inside of his chest. I thought I had the feeling of him memorized, but in that moment, I felt like a stranger in his arms. "Rissa, please, don't." He whispered soft words against my hair. "You can't do this. Stay with me. I can hide you. I need you here." His soft words chipped at the few pieces of my heart that were still intact. He knew as sure as I did that I couldn't stay with him. Our eyes met in a way that in past circumstance was a signal for both of us to lean in for an electric kiss. But here and now, we both knew we couldn't. Once more, Chance was the first to break, looking to the side and dropping his arms from our comforting embrace. I nearly dropped to the floor as he stepped back. Where he once held me, chills burned. He nodded once at me, a goodbye. I love you. Chance's voice was no more than a squeak, and he held my bag out to me. I couldn't return it, couldn't say it back. I could hardly even breathe. I stared at the bag dangling from his hands. Money, clothes, fake ID, and a passport. New family, new friends, new life. The second I grabbed that bag from him, it would be real. It would be happening. I took it and turned my back to him one last time before I pushed the door open, the sun burning its glare into my vision. I squinted into the new world that was now open to me, finally. My feet proceeded to carry me down the street towards a new life and a new future. No, I did not look back, but as a tear tumbled down my cheek, I whispered to the breeze, I love you too, and then I ran on. And I would love to welcome Andrew.
This is a short story called The Part of the Finale. The last game. The last game will be the last time I will wear the green and white, the WRA helmet with the WRA on my chest. The last time I will gear up with my friends and teammates. The last time I will put on the same gear the same way, which I've been putting my gear on since freshman year. Shoulder pads, jerseys, cleats, helmet, arm pads, gloves. The same dress ritual, a hat, reserve hat, the reserve green, and some worn out spares. The last time I will walk out of the locker room with my brothers. This game is not just a game, this is the final game. All of the workouts, practices, staying late after a practice, the film, the spring breaks, or just screwing around in the turf with my friends. The last breakdown, the last face-off, ground ball, pass, and shot in the same uniform that I have worn for the past 4 years. The last huddle where you tell your closest friends to give it all they have in the final minutes in that one game. The last shift, the last fun, the last run to tell your goalie that they did a good job, the last rah-rah, the good game line, the last reserve on 3. But then what after this game? Nothing. Nothing has to be done. Everything you have done in the WRA uniform is finished. Nothing to look forward to. Nothing left. Business has been done. Everything you have worked for, no matter if you like the result or not, has been completed. There is nothing you can change about it. I saw in person this past year, in front of my eyes, the emotion of playing your last lacrosse game / high school game of your whole life. Yes, even those select people play in college. The team was playing for something bigger than themselves. It hit me watching those guys play in their final games. I realized when I saw it, I had something to look forward to. Another season, another game to look forward to. The motivation to become a better player and to get the team to the next level. To look forward to the games and the teams that you lost to last year and to avenge the loss with a win. But for those guys, it is all done. I hope this moment in high school does not go by too fast. Now I would like to welcome Neeraj.
Hello, everyone. The piece I'm going to be reading today is called Watching My Beautiful Boy Transcend into Adulthood. Small note about it, I wrote it as like a woman, and I'm not a woman. So, okay. I am so excited for Harvey. Last night he came into our bedroom. He looked so nervous. I was so worried he was going to give us some horrible news. I thought to myself, oh great, he probably ruined the car, or he knocked up a girl. Oh dear Lord, he's going to prison. I'm the mother of a criminal now. Oh my. He took a deep breath and he said to me, "Mom, Dad, I shot up some heroin." My boy, I thought. A smile instantly touched my face. He's finally grown up. I was so worried he wasn't going to get into drugs. As a parent, you want your kid to do well and to have fun and to be successful. I never thought he'd be able to. I figured he'd find it lame or for old people. I'm just so proud of him. He's growing up so fast. It seems like yesterday was his 5th birthday and we gave him tequila shots for the first time. Jim and I are thinking about sending him to Amsterdam. I mean, the kid deserves it. He started heroin at 15. That takes some guts. I only started up when I was pregnant, actually. I just figured, hey, you gotta start sometime. Jim had been cooking meth on the side. He's a sales rep at Hobby Lobby. And that's actually how Harv got interested. He has so much initiative. I honestly think he might be president one day. Up next is Ella Ergazos.
So this short story is titled End. I lie down for a few minutes thinking about the day when I hear a sound of splintering wood. As I walk down the steps, I hear a gust of wind outside the front door. Now I'm running, but the stairs just seem to be getting longer under my feet as I go. I finally reach the bottom of the staircase and reach to go open the door. When it opens, I look down, and beneath me is a bottomless hole in which I can see galaxies. I immediately shut the door and start to run back upstairs. As I run, the stairs start to fall under my feet into a bottomless pit of a million galaxies. This is the slow end of the world. And then this is a poem, and the title is W. Why do you try when you know that one day you will die? What keeps you going without even knowing? Who do you trust when you feel that you must? Where do you go while all alone? When do you cry while the pen runs dry? And now I'd like to introduce Aaron Finan.
I'm reading 3 poems, and the first one is called Vessels. You stole my heart. I guess I let you. It was probably very easy. I will never forgive you because you never gave it back. The second poem I have is called To Mine. I wish I had you. I wish you would drive me home from school in your big black pickup truck that would make everyone feel small. The seats would be soft, and everything would be silent until you asked me how my day was and what I'm doing later. Your hair would be just like mine, black, curly, short, and strongly hated ever since we were young. And your eyes would be my eyes, green and brown and gray, like matching marbles, the kind that you hold tightly. Even though they're cold and hurt your hand, you keep holding them. Like someone shoved marbles into our empty eye sockets, but we laughed together anyway. Your firm hand on my shoulder, your strong arms wrapped tightly around me, and the loving way you hold me makes up for the coldness in both our eyes. And the last poem I have is called Nothing Personal. You are so beautiful. I have never seen someone so ugly in my life. So many people love and respect you, and no one will ever like you, no matter what. You make people smile and laugh every day. You are a burden. The things you like are awesome, but people make fun of you for a reason. You wear super cool clothes, and you're weird and different. You have so much potential. Your life is going nowhere. I can't believe how talented you are. You suck at everything. I love you. I hate you. I really need to stop looking in the mirror. And next up is Nadina.
I will be reading my story, Beyouche. I can still recall it, walking through the small gate to be reunited with the wide cobblestone path, your grandson's extreme sports gear lying next to the white arches with flowers. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining and the air was warm in this small Romanian town. Your husband met us there, his eyes so bright and warm, which left me wondering how much pain my great-uncle had to put aside to still be able to grin like that. He led us to your room, and there you lay on your bed. You looked different, but then again, a lot had changed in 2 years. Your silver hair was extremely short, contrasting against your big brown eyes that matched my grandmother's perfectly. Mom told me you were sick, without specifying how. Now there was no doubt. An hour passed by, 2, maybe it was 3. I can't remember much except how you were alone in your room with my mother and grandmother. I had to sit at the kitchen table eating bread and watching everyone talk about my cousins without really asking how I myself was doing. So I intensely watched a sports game where some Romanian player had made it to Wimbledon. I don't even like tennis all that much. I tried to ignore all the close connections between the rest of my family members, the ones I never got a chance to make. Finally, it was time to leave, and we all said our goodbyes as I sat in the back of our car, with sunglasses and a voice that I had trained to keep steady by now. Driving back, all the voices in the car became a low buzz as I silently drowned in dripping salt water and hidden emotion. I knew the next time I saw you, you would just be a name on a slab of stone. And now I would like to introduce Zoe.
This story is called The Beast at the Feast. My life was a constant battle. People always crowded me and spilled weird substances on me and tried to mix in with me. It was disconcerting and wrong, but so far I had survived. This is exactly what I was thinking when I saw the white dining plates. They were gorgeous with small pearl white dots, vaguely contrasting the off-white of the plate. Almost like a pillow, but a brittle pillow. A woman set it on the table gently, like one might set an uncooked egg on the counter. Repeatedly she did this. Set one fragile egg plate down, returned to the dark cherry wood cabinets, and placed another plate down. She walked back and forth slowly, precisely. Each step was like a dance, controlled with strong leg muscles, but elegant in a way that was so beautiful it was almost tangible. At least 30 plates were set out in the same methodical motion. The white dining plates were soon accompanied by forks. The forks looked devilish. They were silver and sharp with 4 tongs each. I could just see raids of people holding ultra-sized pitchforks like these. Fire would be set to the communities, jumping from house to house, and people cried for help. The forks, although brutes, had excellent senses of style, matching the plates perfectly, with a small pearl white dot on the bottom of each and every fork. Spoons and knives came next, a pair that could not be separated. I like to think of them as the devious duo. One treated you like it would just scoop you right up and cradle you forever. But all cradles aren't kind. I overheard a poem called Rockabye Baby once, and if you listen to the words, and I mean really listen, it's a dark lullaby. Something no child should ever hear without understanding. Because a baby falls out of a tree. I mean, who does that to someone? And don't even get me started on knives. They were like hungry wolves, tearing into meaty flesh, sawing and sawing and sawing. Seemed cruel, sadistic almost, that people would allow such a thing. Especially on a day such as today, the day for giving thanks, Pilgrim Day, better known as Thanksgiving. The maids continued to dance around the room, setting down pillow-like plates and monstrous knives. Soon the people began to arrive, carrying large fur coats made from real animals. It was disgraceful. Or business coats to cover the business jacket, all black, all uniform, all very, very expensive. Practically had money signs printed on it. The talk rapidly started to bubble as a small ensemble consisting of a violist, cellist, bassist, and violinist began playing a long piece by Beethoven. My time was running short, very short indeed. A maid entered the kitchen and made her way towards the dead, murdered turkey, glistening with a brown, pasty glaze. Steam rose off of it, twirling in the air in random shapes and forms. If I hadn't felt bad for the turkey, I would have liked to try a bite. Then came the stuffing and the sweet potatoes with marshmallows, and the peas and the gravy and the cranberries and the mashed potatoes and the... Oh no, no! I was then brought to the table in a braided basket. Everyone in the fancy mansion hushed and stared at the feast being set upon the table, which was decked in a large, vibrant red tablecloth. But it felt like they were staring at my buns, the rolls. Butter was set beside me with one of the large, devious knives. Clink, clink, clink. I'm going to keep this brief because I know everybody's hungry. I would just like to welcome all of my guests and family. A man in a black suit announced. He had a wide grin and an aging face. Well, let's eat. In seconds, people surrounded the table, grabbing food like vultures. A man with large rings grabbed me out of the basket and shoved me next to the mashed potatoes. He splattered gravy all over the two of us. I sputtered, mystified that someone would do something like that. I had certainly never poured any liquids on them. He proceeded to take a piece of turkey, cranberries, and peas. How did people eat so much? Few people bent their heads around the table and muttered short prayers to themselves, thanking God for the beautiful and plentiful food. Murderers, I thought. Hey, I whispered to mashed potatoes. Think we'll make this painful or painless? I don't know, she muttered. I imagine death is painful. We're all going to die tonight anyways. Shut up after that, and watched as murders were committed around me. The man with the rings took a bite out of the cranberries. Murder. Then he took a bite of the peas. Murder. Then he took a bite of the turkey with the gravy and another bite of the cranberries. Murderer, 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 I yelled at myself each time. And then, at long last, he reached for me. I neared the dark caverns of his mouth, closer and closer still. If I had a heart, it would be pounding. If I had hands, they'd be sweating. And that's when I realized, if I was going to die, I'd make him pay. I was enveloped in darkness quickly, and before I was completely dead, I promised the man with many rings this. He would definitely have digestive problems tonight. I'd now like to introduce Elise.
This poem is called Safety Place. White ceiling, postered walls, paper carpeting. This my bed, there my lamp, here my papasan. This is my haunt. Pens in jars, journal open, brushes at the ready. The stage is set. My time here is in sanctuary. I'm safe within these walls. With tea and book and quiet thought, I am content. My time away is suffocating, as if the sea has swallowed me. Expectations falling in, my confidence a mask. The eyes are biting me. It is here I feel like dissolving, to drift straight through the cracks. Please welcome Anna.
The first thing I'll read is a section of my fiction story called Mystery Mammal. The rainforest was filled with songs of the shoebird. The color of salmon in the most unusual place was enclosed in the white ivory glass weeds, cicadas buzzing and vibrating their bodies at one another, trying to figure out a mystery within the sound. From a tallest tree to the smallest inchworm, I was covered in my surroundings. Yet the youth of this particular elephant made me cringe. What darkness could be out here watching him, watching me, waiting to feast on our flesh like a pack of wild dogs, hungry for the meat we were too selfish to give. Yet I felt an urge to pull forward, to follow Tomiscus into the forest. I needed to make sure he would be more than dinner for two. Strolling through this tropical rainforest, I wondered where this strange creature was leading me to. This could possibly be a death trap for my wicked reactions to small insects. How I despise bugs and their infinite amount of tiny, sticky legs. I heard a loud moan behind those faraway trees, but I couldn't quite make it clear. I started running towards the sound in case of Tomiscus being caught in a brawl. I didn't see or hear him. I stopped sprinting and looked around. I didn't see my loving hairless mammoth, instead a mysterious figure with sharp teeth and claws like a lion. It was waiting to gouge out my entire body and feed her young. She had a violet type of fur, on the peak of her death. This magnificent creature from the dark was lunging toward me quickly. I had to act fast, but I could not move. I felt paralyzed in shock. Right when I was going to be hit from the attack, an animal was stampeding through the thick brush. It was Temiscus. He came towards the panther and completely trampled it. Tumbling and scratching each other, I knew I had to leave. I felt I was abandoning my own self, but I knew Temiscus wanted me to live. I ran as fast as I could, and soon I was out of the forest. My next is, the poem is Love the Key. Love is the way into the locked trunk we cannot open. Love is the exit sign for our fire escape. Love is the animal repeating every response. Stalking the stalker, forcing yourself out of that stew, or searching for the hungry man to fly out of your window like the lurking lark at sunrise. Or waste your body on a being who needs only the shift of another. Make art with limbs you've been given. Grow food you've dreamed of creating. Be your own masterpiece.
So before we finish up, I just want to thank everyone again. I was wondering if I could have Lydia and Dave come up just to say a few final words to the writers to send them off as a little valedictory. Happy words.
You guys nailed it. For all the hard-won wisdom I wish I possessed about what makes a writer, the line I trust most is also the most mundane. Writers write. They write without regard for the arbitrary boundaries of discipline or form or genre. They write often without the expectation of money or fame. They write sometimes instead of eating, instead of sleeping. I hope none of the work we've done this week has come at the expense of a good meal or, just as importantly, a good night's sleep. But I am confident that we did the real work together. We have tried to notice and to make sense of the world and of ourselves using the imperfect instrument of the English language. We have tried to understand what it might feel like to be somebody else, to put their lives into our words. All of this can sound a bit grandiose, I suspect, but we have to remember and honor those grand ambitions in order to justify the time that we spend in solitude, worrying over a comma, or should it have been a semicolon, or an em dash, and the impossible difference between the right word and the almost right word. The time spent at the page, especially the blank page, instead of among the wealth of everything else the world offers. Most people I know can't imagine wanting to spend that sort of time and effort to produce something that others might never even notice, something that, if it's lucky, might wait for years on a shelf in an outpost of a musty library or in a forgotten backwoods of the internet until finally, if it's even luckier, someone finds it, picks it up, and begins to read. Most people I know are too wise ever to want such a thing. The rest of us, all of us, are the writers. Thank you and good luck.
It's so exciting to have been a part of this week's workshop because it means I've been privy to your work, your conversations, and the quiet moments when you're bent over your notebooks and concentration. I've seen you treat other stories with care and respect, and occasionally I've seen you struggle over the right line to discover what happens next as you write it. And as far as I know, that's all there is. The work you've done this week is what it means to be a writer, and you've done it well. I've been impressed by your talent, and what's more, I've been impressed by your kindness. I've met writers this week who understand how delicate a business it can be to tell a story and respect what it means to be trusted with one. Finding what's salvageable when you're struggling isn't just a vital skill in writing, it's an important one in life, too.
Thanks again. I hope you all have a lovely summer, and I hope that many of you or all of you will return next year. You can friend us on Facebook. You can email each other and Sarah and me. Please keep in touch. We want to hear about your exploits and all of your achievements. So thanks again. Thank you to everybody who supported you guys tonight. So thanks.